Last night's episode of The View witnessed an unprecedented confrontation when Steve Martin declared, "I'm done with this show," and walked off set after Sonny Hostin accused him of profiting from cultural appropriation and suggested his banjo playing was stealing from black musical traditions without acknowledgement. The comedy legend didn't just defend his musicianship. He delivered a masterful education on music history that left Sonny exposed as profoundly ignorant about the very culture she claimed to protect. But what started as promotion for Martin's bluegrass album would reveal something disturbing about how The View weaponizes cultural discussions without understanding them. The ABC studios were unusually tense from the moment Martin arrived. The 79-year-old comedian was there to discuss his new collaborative album with diverse bluegrass artists. But Sonny had prepared something entirely different. A production assistant later revealed that Sonny had specifically instructed researchers to find the appropriation angle and expose how he's stealing black music. The warm-up coordinator had been telling the audience about white entertainers who profit from black art and the theft of cultural heritage. Several staffers, including one who'd worked on Martin's album, expressed alarm about the planned attack, with one music consultant reportedly telling Sonny, "Steve Martin has done more to preserve and celebrate banjo history, including its African roots, than almost anyone, only to be dismissed with, he's still a white man playing black music." Therefore, when the cameras rolled, Martin was walking into an ambush based on profound cultural misunderstanding. The show opened with typical panel discussion, but Sonny made several pointed comments about cultural theft in entertainment and white artists who refused to acknowledge their appropriation. Martin waited backstage, quietly tuning his banjo, a custom instrument he'd helped design to honor traditional African banjo construction. His publicist would later reveal that Martin had suspected this angle, saying, "They don't understand that fighting appropriation by enforcing segregation is just another form of racism." When Whoopi finally announced, "Please welcome Steve Martin," he walked out carrying his banjo, his gentle demeanor masking decades of musical scholarship. "Steve, welcome to The View," Whoopi said warmly, genuinely happy to see him. But Sonny immediately interjected, "Steve, don't you think it's problematic that you've made millions playing the banjo, an African instrument, without giving credit to its origins?" she asked accusingly. Martin paused, studying Sonny with genuine curiosity. "Without giving credit? I've written extensively about the banjo's African origins. I've funded exhibits on its history. I've collaborated with black musicians for decades." "Which part lacks credit?" he asked mildly. "But you're still a white man profiting from black culture," Sonny pressed. "And you're a Puerto Rican black woman hosting a show created by a white woman. Should we discuss cultural ownership, or should we acknowledge that art transcends racial boundaries?" Martin replied calmly. "That's different," Sonny said defensively. "How? You're suggesting instruments belong to races. By that logic, should black classical musicians stop playing violin? Should Yo-Yo Ma stop playing cello because he's not European?" Martin asked. Therefore, the logical trap was set immediately. The other hosts looked uncomfortable. Joy Behar tried to change the subject, but Sonny doubled down. "You're deflecting from your appropriation," she accused. Martin stood slowly, holding his banjo. "This instrument was built by Kevin Enoch, a black luthier who I've worked with for 20 years. The design incorporates traditional African elements I studied with griots in Mali. The album features 3 black musicians who are credited and paid equally. Tell me, Sonny, what have you done to preserve African-American musical traditions?" he asked. Sonny couldn't answer. But Martin wasn't finished with his education. "You know who taught me banjo? An elderly black man named John Cohen who'd learned from his grandfather, who'd been enslaved. John spent 3 years teaching me not just technique, but history. He said, and I quote, 'Music doesn't see color, only close-minded people do.'" Was he wrong? Martin asked. "You're using one black person to justify," Sonny began. "I'm using 40 years of collaboration, study, and respect to justify my right to play music. You're using 5 minutes of Google searches to justify segregating art by race. Which one seems more problematic?" Martin interrupted gently. He turned to the audience. And this is where something important happens. You know, there are young musicians watching who are being told they can't play certain instruments because of their race. That's not protecting culture. That's segregating art. If you believe music belongs to everyone, share this moment. Comment your support for musical diversity. Like this video to spread the message that art transcends racial boundaries. Your engagement might encourage a young musician who's been told their skin is the wrong color for their instrument, he said directly to the camera. The audience response was powerful and immediate. Many stood and applauded. Others nodded vigorously. But Sunny, feeling her position crumbling, made things worse. You're just another white man who thinks he can take whatever he wants from black culture, she said nastily. Martin's gentle demeanor finally cracked. Say that again, he said quietly. I said you're taking from black culture, Sunny repeated. No, say it again while looking at my banjo. See the West African tuning pegs? The Caribbean wood? The collaboration credits? Say I'm stealing while looking at 40 years of respectful collaboration, Martin challenged. Sunny couldn't maintain eye contact with the instrument, but she persisted. Cultural appropriation is violence, she claimed. Violence. I play music with black artists who are my equals and friends. You're on television telling people they can't share art because of skin color. Which one sounds more violent? Martin asked. He moved closer to her position. You know what's really tragic? You're so focused on racial ownership that you're missing racial unity. Music has been bringing people together across cultures for millennia. You're trying to tear that apart, he said. I'm protecting black culture, Sunny insisted. From what? From appreciation? From continuation? From evolution? You're not protecting it. You're segregating it. And segregation never protected anyone, Martin observed. But then he revealed something that devastated her position. Do you know who nominated me for the Black Banjo Reclamation Project's Lifetime Achievement Award? Rhiannon Giddens, arguably the most important black banjo player of this generation. She said I've done more to bring respect to the instrument than anyone of any race. Should I tell her she's wrong? He asked. Sunny's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. The contradiction was undeniable, but she made her fatal mistake. This is exhausting. Security, please escort him out, she said. The audience erupted in boos. Having Steve Martin removed for defending musical collaboration was disastrous. But Martin raised his hand. No need. I'm done with this show, he declared. But first, let me play you something, he said. Without waiting for permission, he began playing his banjo. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, clearly African-influenced, but uniquely its own. The audience fell silent, mesmerized. That piece was written by me and 3 black musicians. We spent months crafting it together. It's not appropriation. It's collaboration. It's not theft. It's art. And if you can't understand the difference, that's your limitation, not mine, he said. He headed for the exit, then turned back. Oh, and Sunny, your law degree is from Notre Dame, a predominantly white institution. Your entire legal education is based on European law traditions. By your logic, aren't you appropriating white culture? Or does your rule only apply to others? He said. The philosophical destruction was complete. Sunny sat frozen, her own logic turned against her. Martin walked off to thunderous applause. Most of the audience gave him a standing ovation. Many walked out with him. Within minutes, #MartinEducatesSunny was trending globally. Black musicians began posting their collaborations with Martin, praising his respect for the music and its history. The support from the black music community was overwhelming. Rhiannon Giddens herself posted, Steve Martin has done more to educate people about the banjo's African origins than any white musician in history. Sunny Hostin just revealed she knows nothing about the culture she claims to protect. The contrast between Martin's decades of respectful collaboration and Sunny's superficial accusations was stark. Musicians of all races condemned The View for promoting musical segregation. The View returned from commercial without Sunny. Whoopi awkwardly explained she was reviewing her research, but everyone knew she'd been intellectually destroyed and couldn't face it. The next day brought severe consequences. Music organizations condemned The View for promoting artistic segregation. The National Association of Black Musicians released a statement supporting Martin and criticizing Sunny's dangerous misunderstanding of cultural exchange. Martin released a beautiful statement. Music is humanity's common language. When we tell people they can't speak certain parts of it because of their skin color, we diminish us all. I'll continue playing with musicians of all backgrounds, because that's what music is for, bringing us together, not keeping us apart. The statement became required reading in music education programs. It sparked essential conversations about the difference between appropriation and appreciation, between theft and collaboration. Sonny attempted an apology the next day, but it made things worse. She claimed Martin had misunderstood her concerns, while still insisting that boundaries need to be respected. The contradiction showed she'd learned nothing. The incident became known as the Martin Masterclass, a perfect example of how to respond to false appropriation claims with facts, history, and dignity. It became the definitive shutdown of performative cultural gatekeeping. But that night, all anyone saw was Steve Martin refusing to let music be segregated by race, refusing to accept that collaboration was theft, refusing to let ignorance masquerade as cultural protection. He'd walked off the show, but he'd walked away victorious, his banjo serving as proof that art transcends the boundaries small minds try to impose. The empty chair he left represented every artist told they couldn't create across cultural lines. Every musician told their collaboration was appropriation. Every person who understood that sharing art wasn't stealing it. And Sonny Hostin, the prosecutor who tried to convict him of cultural theft, was exposed as someone who understood neither culture nor art, someone who would segregate music in the name of protecting it. The difference was absolute. Martin continued collaborating across all boundaries. Sonny continued sitting behind her desk, exposed as someone who preached inclusion while practicing artistic segregation. Everyone watching understood that music, like all art, belongs to humanity, not to races. And Steve Martin, with his banjo and his dignity, had proved it beyond any doubt.